The Mexico Grand Prix ended in frustration for Lewis Hamilton, or so he thought. After that controversial 10-second penalty, Ferrari engineers tore down the SF-25 and discovered something no one expected. What they found inside Hamilton's car completely changed how the team viewed his performance. And what Fred Vasseur said afterward revealed exactly why Ferrari's faith in Lewis just grew stronger. When the 5 red lights went out, everything slowed down. Hamilton's launch was perfect, smooth, deliberate, the reaction time of a man who has done this 1,000 times, yet still treats every start like it's his first. He threaded the chaos with surgical precision, staying clear of the dust storm that erupted behind him. Verstappen attacked from 5th, Norris swung wide, Leclerc defended the inside. But through it all, Hamilton kept his line. No elbows, no panic, just control. At the exit of Turn 1, the red Ferrari emerged in scathed 3rd place, steady, calm, and ready. For the first 5 laps, the race felt balanced. Ferrari had pace. Hamilton had flow. Then on lap 6, everything changed. Verstappen appeared in his mirrors, closer than comfort, hungry for dominance. The Red Bull dived late, desperate, brutal. The 2 cars touched, just a whisper of carbon meeting carbon, but the consequence was immediate. Hamilton was forced wide over the grass, dust spraying from his tires as he fought to keep control. For a fraction of a second, the SF-25 skated across the infield weightless. But then, in that impossible ballet of instinct and physics, Hamilton saved it. No spin, no crash, just a racer's reflex honed over 2 decades of survival. He rejoined the track, still ahead and still fighting. From the outside, it looked like a minor skirmish. To Hamilton, it was something else entirely. The car felt different, lighter at the rear, uncertain in rotation, as though the balance had shifted beneath him. "Something's off," he said quietly over the radio. His engineer noted the comment, but saw nothing unusual on the telemetry. The sensors showed no damage, no irregularity. But Hamilton trusted his senses more than the numbers. He could feel the air moving wrong beneath him, the downforce bleeding away ever so slightly. And that intuition would prove prophetic. When the penalty came through 10 seconds for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, the Ferrari garage fell silent. The replay showed what the crowd already knew. Hamilton hadn't cut the corner for gain, he'd been forced off. But Formula One is rarely about absolutes. It's about perception, judgment, and timing. Hamilton didn't protest. He just said, "That's bullshit, man." There was no grip there. Then silence. Calm. Reset. That's how he's always dealt with chaos, by turning emotion into focus. Even as the race slipped away, he stayed methodical. Tire management, brake balance, energy deployment, nothing was wasted. From the outside, the opening phase of Hamilton's Mexican Grand Prix looked immaculate. He'd executed the perfect launch, cleared the chaos behind him, and slotted into 3rd behind Leclerc and Norris. The SF-25, for the first time in weeks, felt balanced and responsive. His radio was calm, his tone methodical. "Car feels good," he said on lap 3. In that moment, Ferrari believed they finally had a platform to fight. But in Formula One, perfection never lasts. What the cameras didn't capture was the micro-contact in Turn 1, Verstappen's aggressive front left clipping Hamilton's right rear as they fought for space. It was barely visible. The car didn't twitch, but it was enough. Enough to open a wound in the Ferrari that no one could see except the man driving it. By lap 5, Hamilton began to sense something that didn't show up on any dashboard. Rears moving more than usual through mid-corner, he mentioned quietly to his race engineer, Riccardo Adami. Ferrari's systems reported everything, normal tire pressures fine, aero balance stable. Yet Hamilton's instincts were louder than the numbers. He could feel the airflow slipping unevenly beneath him, as if one side of the car was bleeding grip. That's not imagination. That's muscle memory, the result of 20 years of knowing what every vibration, every twitch, every shift in the chassis means. Most drivers would have pushed through it. Hamilton didn't ignore it, he adapted. His braking points changed. His throttle inputs softened. He was already managing a car that, in hindsight, was aerodynamically wounded. The incident with Verstappen on lap 6 only made things worse. As Hamilton was forced onto grass, the Ferrari hit a bump that cracked the right rear floor strake, a component barely visible even in post-race inspection. But from that moment, the car was aerodynamically unbalanced. The rear downforce dropped just enough to make traction unpredictable in long corners. The onboard cameras later showed subtle oversteer corrections through turns 4, 7, and 11 micro-adjustments that kept the car alive but cost him time. Still, he didn't flinch. There was no panic, no irritation, no flood of complaints over the radio. Just precision, adaptation, survival at the highest level. When the stewards issued the 10-second penalty, Ferrari's strategy room froze. Leaving the track and gaining an advantage, the notice read. On paper, it was clear. In context, it was absurd. Hamilton hadn't cut the corner intentionally, he'd been pushed there by Verstappen's dive. But Ferrari knew that arguing would achieve nothing. The penalty was final. What made the moment remarkable wasn't the decision itself, but how Hamilton handled it. "That's bullshit, man. There was no grip there," he said. But then silence. He didn't spiral into frustration. He recalibrated. "All right, let's keep going." That's the essence of Hamilton emotional control in a sport built on chaos. His next laps were among his fastest of the race. He didn't fight the injustice. He outran it. Ferrari's pit wall didn't yet understand the full picture. The sensors were still blind to the damage, and the engineers were still trying to model tire life under the revised strategy. To them, Hamilton's complaints about rear instability sounded like the normal degradation every driver faces in the Mexican heat. What they didn't realize was that Lewis wasn't describing tire, where he was describing aerodynamic asymmetry. His feedback, word for word, matched what the post-race data would later confirm. The rear floats mid-corner, then snaps in traction, he'd said. In engineering terms, that meant a rear floor problem. But in real time, Ferrari trusted the numbers, and the numbers said nothing. So they kept him out, pushing his tires further than planned. And Hamilton somehow made it work. When Ferrari's engineers began dismantling Hamilton's SF-25 in the garage after the race, what they found stunned even the most experienced among them. The right rear section of the floor, the part responsible for stabilizing airflow through the diffuser, had fractured. It wasn't a clean break, it was a fine split, almost invisible to the naked eye. But at 200 miles per hour, even a hairline fracture changes everything. The data later confirmed that Hamilton had been driving with nearly 7% less rear downforce from lap 6 onward. That may sound small, but in Formula One, it's catastrophic. The car loses traction under acceleration, slides in high-speed corners, and becomes unpredictable in braking zones. Yet through all of that, Hamilton made the SF-25 look composed. Fred Vasseur's first reaction was disbelief. "There's no way he finished that race with this much damage," he said, staring at the cracked section under fluorescent light. The engineers ran simulations to estimate the loss in performance. The results were shocking. With the aerodynamic imbalance, Hamilton should have been at least 8/10ths slower per lap. Instead, he was losing only 2/10ths. That meant one thing: he had compensated for the missing downforce through driving technique alone. Every input, every steering correction, every lift, every throttle release had been deliberately adjusted to counteract the imbalance. He was literally engineering the car from the cockpit, said one aerodynamicist. He drove the simulation that our computers couldn't predict. The data told a clear story. Hamilton's throttle traces were smoother than anyone else's in the field. Instead of pushing the car to its limits, he managed its energy like a craftsman managing a delicate machine. He adjusted his braking points to protect the damaged aero surface, altered his corner entry angles to minimize lateral load, and even changed his gear shift timing to stabilize the rear. To the outside world, it looked like Ferrari lacked pace. In reality, Hamilton was holding together a wounded car with precision and patience. That's what separates a fast driver from a complete one: the ability to adapt not just instinctively, but intelligently. What made this discovery even more astonishing was how early Hamilton had noticed the problem. During the first stint, he told the team, "Rear feels lighter. Rotation's inconsistent on exit." At the time, Ferrari's telemetry had shown nothing wrong. Only after the post-race teardown did they realize how accurate his description had been. "He doesn't guess," Vasseur said. "He feels the car like it's part of him." He was right before the data was. That's why Vasseur was quick to defend him in front of the media. When asked about Hamilton's penalty and race pace, the team principal's answer was immediate: Lewis did nothing wrong. He drove a damaged car to 8th. Without that, he'd have been fighting for 2nd. Inside Ferrari's engineering department, Hamilton's drive became a case study. The team began to integrate his in-race feedback into their post-race analysis routines, something Vasseur had long wanted but never implemented so effectively. The concept was simple: trust the driver's instincts as much as the telemetry. In Mexico, Hamilton had proven that human sensitivity could still outperform sensors. His ability to detect aerodynamic shifts through seat pressure, vibration, and sound waves was uncanny. One engineer described it perfectly. You can give Lewis a car with one broken winglet, and he'll tell you which one before the simulator does. It wasn't arrogance, it was precision born from decades of mastering machinery on the edge.